Welcome to Love and Lattes, the podcast designed for women who are ready to stop settling and start living a life full of authentic love, confidence, and real connection. I'm your host, Victoria, the self-love scientist, speaker, and coach, and I'm here to help you reclaim your power, deepen your relationships, and fall unapologetically in love with yourself. So grab your tea, your latte, or your favorite beverage, and let's get started.
Do you believe your brain can actually be rewired to love and trust yourself more deeply? Science says yes, and I am the self-love scientist. But before I get super excited about this, if you ever felt stuck in self-doubt, burnout, or even disconnected from who you really are, this episode is for you. I'm so excited to welcome Jacqueline Young to Love and Lattes. Jacqueline is a recognized keynote speaker and transformational coach who blends neuroscience, hypnosis, and heart-leading coaching to help women go from burnout to brilliance by reconnecting with their authentic selves. And today we're going to get into neuroplasticity and the connection to self-compassion. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Me too. I remember when we connected a couple weeks ago. I think it was back in March or April. But the moment you even said the word neuro, I was like, I'm in love.
I know there's a few of us geeks out there, that's for sure.
When I did my training for my neuro-linguistic practitioner license, I was like, wow, the brain is just so vast and just there's so many ways we can unlock like our superpowers. And in this instance, we're going to kind of dive into self-compassion. So I'd love for you to, kind of start us off with what in the world is neuroplasticity?
It's a good starting point, that's for sure. It's not necessarily a new idea. It's been around for a while, but it's still a new concept for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. So oftentimes we grew up thinking that how we thought about things or our IQ, for instance, was fixed. And what we know now is that everything can be rewired, including your IQ. So there's nothing that isn't um, plastic about how we're able to kind of move through things. So if you know how to work with your mind or how to work with your brain, you can really enhance things. And one of the easiest ways to think about this is Carol Dweck's work on growth mindset. So if you think, I think a certain way about a particular thing, or I'm not good at math is probably the easiest one to think about. Oh, I'm not good at math. And you just keep telling yourself, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at math. And the difference between saying I'm not good at math versus one of the things that we try to teach our kids in education now is I'm not good at math yet, or I don't know how to solve that problem yet. So the idea behind neuroplasticity is that there is room for growth behind everything. So nothing is fixed. Everything is available to you. You can kind of look at the world as your oyster again. Things that felt like, well, I'm no good at that, or I don't have training in that, or I'm not equipped that way, or that wasn't part of how my brain functions. No, no. If you want to kind of jump into something, you have the plasticity to be able to know that you can actually rewire how the connections, how the neurons are actually firing in your mind. And that's one of the things that we do in hypnosis is that we actually take the science and we figure out exactly how to understanding what happens in the mind work with you to kind of get you into that state that you want to achieve.
That's amazing. I love how you made the comment earlier about plastic, which is like, hard. Generally, can't really do much with it. It's pretty hard unless you melt it in the microwave, which we don't want to do with the brain, obviously. But you said a really good keyword though. I'm not good at math yet. And I
Yeah.
feel like, in this modern time, when it comes to your self-worth or even looking for love, I swear, I think I used to tell my clients, oh, I just haven't found my partner yet, or, I haven't married him yet, or something like really funny and ridiculous. But to me, that kind of created a foundation for faith and hope.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, it keeps all the doors open. It doesn't shut down or limit what your opportunities are going to be about, whether that's in learning or whether that's in love or whether that's in anything, how you want to see yourself grow. So one is seeing yourself as an object of growth, and the other is seeing yourself as very, very limited. I can't do anything. This is my parents' fault. This is the way that I always am. This is the way I'll always be. And all of that kind of talk is very, very limiting in seeing where you can take yourself if you want to set goals and kind of achieve them. And just so many ways, it just really limits your thinking. And so the idea behind neuroplasticity, of course, is that everything is available to you because you just need to rewire everything.
now, the process of rewiring, when you use that instance of utilizing, I can't do math yet, or I don't know how to do this yet, is it just through speaking, or are there other ways that we can practice the neuroplasticity?
It's a great question. The younger you are when you start understanding that learning is a continuum, then the better off you're going to be. Because it kind of helps you rewire or start wiring your brain in a way that is open to new connections. So, like if you think of the brain as a muscle, then the way that you work things is the way that they're going to continue to be. If one of the things that I'll say to my clients in hypnosis is if you have a new way of thinking about something, if you procrastinate and you don't want to procrastinate anymore, then you have a neural transmitted pathway that is very much embedded in the way that you think about things. So if you have a trigger, oh, I should be doing this particular thing, but I don't really feel like it, ergo, I am a procrastinator. What we do in hypnosis, or when you're doing any kind of mindful work, is that you want to recognize that you're literally building a new pathway that is new neurotransmitters that are going to be firing in a new way. So the more that you repeat things, just like building a muscle, the more that you repeat it, the better off you're going to be. So for instance, in that particular example, one of the things that we do in hypnosis is to repeat phrases over and over and over again. And I'll leave my clients actually with a recording so that they have to listen to the same messaging because you want to rewire everything. What fires together wires together. What wires together fires together. So, we want to make sure that you're recognizing that you are knitting new neural pathways, literally new connections where those little funky doer things are connecting and firing in a new pathway, because that's really what you want.
Oh, I love this. And it's funny because it's almost like going back in time, but I remember learning about the neural pathways,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to these, deep unconscious, when we're doing things by routine,
Yes.
consciously, and then when we finally want to do something new, whether it's moving to a new city, we get to that point where it's like you hit a wall, and it's literally
Yeah.
because there's no neurotransmitter there yet. Yet.
Yeah, it's good for you. That's right. Yeah. Yes.
So
Exactly.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think for people who are listening, it's probably going to feel really good knowing that it's not just, it's not entirely that you're limited. It's more like your brain has to create that pathway.
That's right. And I think the most amazing thing about understanding that all of our brains there is a sense of neuroplasticity, like everything kind of can ebb and flow, is exactly what you just said. It's that there are opportunities that are available. So if I get scared about something, I know, okay, wait a minute, I'm just scared about this because it's new. I don't know how it's going to feel, and it's easier for me to feel stuck because it's familiar, but I don't like feeling stuck. So I know I'm going to have to move into that discomfort range. And, we're habitual beasts. We like to stay in our comfort zone. So knowing, okay, I'm going to take a leap of faith. I'm going to be okay on the other side of this. What's the worst that can happen? These are all the kind of questions that you want to start asking yourself so that you're gonna fall, but you're not gonna fall so badly that you can't get up and try again. And that's that whole, okay, I just haven't known how to do it yet. And the easiest way to think about this is when you think about when you were riding a bike. Like you didn't get it right off the bat. You had to go on. You probably fell down a couple of times. And then when you do figure it out, it's like the world is your oyster. It's like, oh my gosh, you're flying free. The wind is in your hair. Like it just feels like freedom. But if you don't remember all of the stumbles and the falls and, the scraped knees and the crying and everything, then you actually take away from the growth experience itself. And it's important to say, wait a minute, like there's always going to be a discomfort through growth, and that's okay. Like that's all part of it. So it's exciting when you kind of say, okay, I just don't know how to ride a bike yet. I just don't know how to do this yet. And I love that because it just changes everything. You just add that word on. And for parents, oh my gosh, please start doing this with your kids right away. It's not like you don't know how to do it. You just don't know how to do it yet. That's okay. I'm here. We'll learn it together. We'll figure it out. You'll be flying on your own.
That's beautiful. I love that. I think I think we can definitely reframe a lot of affirmations or just the way we speak to ourselves. So thinking of keeping that in mind, how does neuroplasticity connect with self-compassion?
It's a really good question. First and foremost, the idea is that whatever you have as an ideology of yourself, recognize that it is fixed. Like it's very funny. People will come to me and say, oh, I don't think I can be hypnotized. I'm not hypnotizable. And then you explain to them that all of the self scripts that they have is like a hypnotic trance. So when you say, I'm only this or I can only be this, that's your hypnotic state that your parents put in you or the environment did or lack of opportunities did. But when you keep saying something over and over again, you are literally feeding a hypnotic state. And so, what you want to do first and foremost is to recognize, okay, I like what I'm hearing about this. There's opportunities that I don't have to feel like I have to stay here because I don't like kind of what here represents for me, either in love or the way that I feel about myself. And when you recognize that you can start speaking to yourself with love and with assuredness and with compassion, it changes everything ever so subtly and then very, very forcefully. So you start catching yourself when you say things that are unkind to yourself. And you realize, wait a minute, I mean, everyone says this, you wouldn't talk to your friend that way. Don't talk to yourself that way. Or if you did talk to your friend, please don't. Like there's nothing to be gained by being
Who's our
cruel or being a
friend?
jerk. So first of all, stop that. But secondly, like when you say things like, "Oh, I'm just so stupid. I can't believe I did that again," or "Oh my God, I almost cut that person off in traffic. How could I be so stupid?" These are the things that we say kind of automatically as self-effacing. The very first step you want to take in becoming more compassionate with yourself is to literally catch yourself on those and say, wait a minute, you're not stupid. You just made a mistake. Now, when you take that as a small idea and kind of grow it, like we do in the course that I teach, it's about really being full of curiosity about yourself. So it's one thing to stop it and to say, I don't like talking to myself that way. I'm going to change it. The second thing is to kind of get into yourself and say, now, why do I think it's appropriate to talk to myself that way? Where might that have come from? What do I need to change about that? Or some of the stuff that surrounds that? What does that represent for me? And 9 out of 10 times it comes down to either something that you heard that was given to you, like spoken to you as a child, or it's a conclusion that you yourself came to as a youngster. And all that we need to do again is kind of rewire that and for you to see yourself with more clarity and more compassion as an adult. Like, yeah, we all try our best. We're all going to fail. We're going to move forward. There's no one out there that has a perfect life, regardless of what you see on TikTok or Facebook or anything. And it's just understanding that the life that you're here to lead is really the only life you've got, and you want to be the best that you can. But it's about showing up for yourself more than anything else. When you show up for yourself with all of what you bring, your purpose, your voice, your zeal, your zest for life, when you bring all of that to the forefront and you realize how unique you are, then it's very easy to be compassionate with yourself. So all of those things kind of revolve around each other in terms like a love letter to yourself or a love affair with yourself, and understanding, A, you're worthy of it, and B, let's be curious about, well, who am I now? Like, how did I become this person? What do I want to change? How can I change it if I want to? And, how do I want to present myself, both for myself and for the rest of the world, that feels like it's a growth opportunity?
Wow. This is amazing,
Boy,
Dr.
that was a lot.
I feel like I'm tuning into her TED Talk right now. And I forgot we're on a podcast. I'm like, tell me more. No, I think what you're saying about, this development, and I do know exactly what you mean about like when it comes to making this, change in our mindset of like I am worthy, and having to reprogram these old narratives that
Yeah.
at some point felt true and it's all we knew, but now suddenly it's like actually no, like it is, I do respect myself and I do deserve, more
Mm.
or better, or I am beautiful like as I am, there's nothing wrong with me, yeah, I think unlearning those, do you think with neuroplasticity has to do with unlearning those as well? Like those old maybe narratives, like maybe as a kid, our parents told us, you're too loud, or, you know, you'll never be enough, or I wish you did X, Y, Z, stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really great question. Whether or not it's unlearning or whether it's understanding how those tropes came to be, I'm not quite sure which it is, nor do I know that it matters. Because I think what really matters is recognizing that they're there, and that the first step that you want to take is, well, I guess the second step, the first is recognizing they're there. The second is, well, what do you want to do about it? So I'll always say to people, because a lot of people will say, are you expecting me to forgive people in my past? Like if my parents always said, you'll never be enough, for instance, am I supposed to forgive that? And I said, my job is not to tell you how you have to behave in your world at all. You're the one that gets to decide. I only act as your guide, as the hypnotist. I want to be able to take you to where it is that you want to kind of end up, or achieve what you want to achieve. And for most people, it's not necessarily about forgiveness per se. It's about understanding. It could be, in fact, that people were doing the best they could. Your parents were doing the best that they could. Yes, they made huge faults, or they made huge mistakes, rather. And when you're compassionate about them in the same way that you can be compassionate about yourself, you say, oh, well, when I look at my grandparents, I can see exactly why why they did that. And I want to do better. And so we talk about that breaking of, generational trauma, or the tropes that we all were led to believe, like girls need to be this way, boys need to be this way, whatever it is. When we want to be the object of our own change, then therein lies our power, really. Like, like to kind of figure out, okay, well, I can look at all this with compassion and with wonderment and curiosity, and say, oh, that's interesting to me. Now I know why I ended up with this as that little voice in my head. I now know what I can do to change or click off, or to change the narrative for that little voice, and figure out my next moves with more clarity and more gusto. And, kind of look with compassion to those that might have been semi-responsible or fully responsible for where my starting point was.
I like that. I've heard a little bit of mixed feedback when it comes to the forgiveness aspect. And to me, it's more so, once I learned to like, if like for me, I learned how to forgive and be like, you know what, my parents were doing the best they could with the information they had.
Right.
The actions I took were not, a reflection on them. It was more so like they weren't sure, and this is foreign and this is different. So um
Absolutely.
the other
Yeah, I mean, I think you really need to figure out exactly where your growth is going to start. So if you think it's about forgiveness, then knock your socks off. If you think it's about understanding, then that's a slightly different position. But it's for you to figure out. Like no one really wants to live a life that is full of um hurt feelings and challenges and resentment and all that stuff, because that takes it out of your life. When you're taking these steps to move forward, you recognize really quickly that none of that serves you. And it's not about living right. Like, it's not about revenge is the best, living life fully is the best revenge. It's more about who do I want to be? How do I want to represent for myself and for the world? And how do I want my kids to see who I want to be as I represent what my beliefs are, etc. So again, like, it's not really for me as a practitioner to say you must forgive people because that's the only way forward. You figure out your own journey. There's some things that are absolutely unforgivable, quite frankly. They truly are. But if you stay stuck in that state of resentment, then that's a challenge. You're not going to be able to have an easy time moving forward if you continue to feed that mindset.
And that's a very good point. So what would you say is the difference? When I was kind of thinking about how with reframing the way you speak to yourself to develop this self-compassion, are they very related to affirmations? So like let's say if you're creating more self-compassion for yourself, right? Because you don't feel beautiful, or you're feeling, self-conscious and you want to speak like into existence, like I am beautiful. But I like for those who are listening, it's like, well, that's really hard for me to believe. And maybe I want to lose a couple pounds, or I just haven't lost the weight yet, or I haven't gotten the boyfriend yet. You know what I mean? Like how
Yeah.
can, where do you see like the blend there?
Affirmations and the work that I'm talking about are very closely aligned for sure. I think one of the things that people need to figure out is taking a hard look at themselves and understanding why they feel like they're stuck. So one of the things people will say is, "What do you do?" And I'll say, "I help people who are stuck." And that means anything and everything. Like, I can't get on a plane versus, like, I'm traumatized because my childhood was a whole bunch of trauma-inducing things. And I think that what you really need to understand is the depth and scope of what it is that you want to start looking at, what you want to achieve. Understanding that you are worthy is probably the most important stepping stone that you can start with. And you're right, Victoria, it's not easy, especially if you've been basically told or that you have learned to be small or that you're not worthy. And so to step into that power is something that you want to be able to do alongside a professional of some kind. To start off, though, one of the things that you can do is recognize that you can sit in peace with yourself. You can, like, literally, like, turn everything off and be okay with the quiet of your own thoughts. I'm not talking about meditation. I'm talking literally about sitting. Like, it's so funny that we're talking about this. I literally just wrote on LinkedIn just a minute ago something about I learned how to turn off my phone when I was petting my cat and my dog because I was distracting from the somatic sensation of just being with them and feeling their fur and feeling their love and my gratitude for them and my devotion to them. And it was such a funny thing because, petting your animal is such a lovely thing to do, but not when you're distracted. So put down your damn phone and actually pet the damn cat or the dog and just like look at them and be present. Like, it's a beautiful way to start. Secondly, just find some time where you are silent with yourself and just let your thoughts go. And when they start to dig into, I'm not, just flip the script and say, I am. I am worthy. It's an interesting thing that when you start to say, I am whatever you want it to be. So if you're not confident, then start saying, I am confident. And it's not going to take a while, but the more that you say it, the better it becomes. Then you put it on your bathroom mirror and you walk in every day and you look yourself in the eye, literally in the eye, and say what's on that sticky. I am confident. I am beautiful. I am worthy. Whatever it is that you want to start with. Don't start with the whole shebang. Start with the one thing that you want to make a difference with. I am confident. And you put your shoulders back, you stand up straight, you get that Wonder Woman pose, and you move forward. You breathe in and then you exhale. I am worthy. So it sounds ridiculous. It's the same thing that we've heard. Everybody writes about it in all the books. But it's an exercise, like every exercise, you want to start. So you can knock it off or knock it off. You can knock it and say, well, it sounds like it's ridiculous, or you can give it a shot. And I guarantee, and I don't make a lot of guarantees in life, but I guarantee that if you start, you will notice a difference.
No, I can 100% back that up and agree. I have to this day, and I started it a few years ago actually, and then I share the same practice with my clients. I call it mirror talk, and it's you speak into the way you see yourself. You flirt and romanticize the way you see yourself. Even if you're not feeling your hottest that day, it's like, you know what? Like your skin looks great. But the biggest thing I always teach my clients or even share with my friends sometimes, I'm like, when was the last time you looked into the mirror and said, I love you?
Yeah.
And that one, I think for the most people, they always think it's funny until they do it. And then they're like, well, that struck something.
Yes.
And it's like
Yes.
the beginning. I've been doing that for years. And it's just the one thing that's become routine because at the end of the day, even if like it wasn't the best day ever, I am still very proud for myself and I still love myself. And I'm happy to be here.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You've hit on something very, very important. It's so simple, and yet it feels almost as if it is completely different to the way that we have learned about who we are. Particularly, and I'll say this particularly as women, because we were often taught, don't shine too bright. You don't want to draw attention to yourself. You're not that kind of girl. Or whatever it is, like whatever the tropes were that we were taught, they either serve you or they don't. And if they don't serve you, then let's do something about it. Like it's really important to understand, well, what does shining bright mean for you? What does it mean to not hold your light under a bushel? That's the phrase that I use with all of my clients. Well, what does that mean for you if you are holding your light under a bushel? What does it mean if you remove the bushel? What's going to happen then? And it's a question that a lot of people don't kind of explore. Well, what could happen? What's the good stuff? What's the bad stuff? What could happen? Let's really kind of put some time and energy into that and figure out what that could look like.
Mm, I love that. I think one of my favorite phrases is, what's the best thing that could happen?
Yeah.
That could be
Yeah.
a really great reframe.
Yeah. And you're right. The reframe is where all the power is, because otherwise we're dooming, like we're dooming. Oh, it won't, it can't, it's not for me or whatever. And none of that is true. The truth is what you make it to be.
Mm. Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh my
I
gosh.
need to have all these little stickers now, don't I?
This has been such a good episode. And I have to say, I'm so honored by your presence and your knowledge about this. And I do believe that you're doing amazing work. And
Oh,
I
thank you.
I'm so excited for people to tune in. And thank you so much for being on Love and Lattes today.
Thank you for the invite. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Victoria. Take good care.